The world watches as Donald Trump assumes the presidency once again, a figure whose policies have always stirred global debate and concern. His shadow looms large over a volatile Middle East, a region already fraught with tension and historical grievances. Eard Kindler, a seasoned researcher at CNRS, warns that Trump's return could escalate existing conflicts. Trump's maximum pressure strategy towards Iran, which involves severe economic sanctions and diplomatic isolation, could ignite a conflict with devastating consequences. This strategy, characterized by aggressive sanctions and diplomatic isolation, aims to force Iran back to the negotiating table, but at what cost? The goal is to curb Iran's nuclear ambitions and bring about a more stable Middle East. However, the approach is fraught with risks. Kindler argues that this strategy risks backfiring, pushing Iran into a corner from which it may feel compelled to lash out. The potential for military conflict is high, and the consequences could be catastrophic, not just for the region, but for the world. Trump might view Iran as an exception to his preference for economic coercion over military intervention, a stance that could lead to unforeseen consequences. The stakes are simply too high to gamble with the fate of millions. The world watches anxiously, hoping for a resolution that avoids further bloodshed and suffering. To understand Trump's Iran policy, one must examine his track record on Israel. During his first term, Trump adopted a pro-Israel stance, often siding with the Israeli government on contentious issues. He recognized Israeli sovereignty over the Golan Heights, a move widely condemned by the international community. Further solidifying his pro-Israel credentials, Trump recognized Jerusalem as Israel's capital, inflaming tensions with the Palestinians. Trump's actions have complicated the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, fueling despair and anger among Palestinians. The international community must work tirelessly to revive the peace process and bring both sides back to the negotiating table. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict becomes even more volatile under the renewed Trump presidency. The region, already fraught with decades of tension and violence, finds itself on the brink of further chaos. Trump's administration, with its controversial policies, has added fuel to an already raging fire. Trump's policies, perceived as favoring Israeli interests, threaten to marginalize the Palestinians and extinguish hope for a two-state solution. His administration's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital and the relocation of the U.S. embassy there have been seen as provocative moves, further alienating the Palestinian leadership. Annexation of Palestinian territories casts a dark shadow over the region, potentially ending the possibility of a viable Palestinian state. The expansion of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, coupled with the annexation plans, has led to widespread condemnation and protests. Palestinians see these actions as a direct threat to their aspirations for statehood. The international community, including key U.S. allies in Europe, has warned against such a move. European leaders have voiced their concerns, stating that unilateral actions could destabilize the region further and undermine any prospects for peace. Protests have erupted across Europe, with demonstrators calling for an end to the annexation plans. Concerns about the financial interests of Trump's advisors, notably Jared Kushner, raise questions about conflicts of interest. Kushner, who played a significant role in shaping Middle East policy, has faced scrutiny over his business dealings and their potential influence on U.S. foreign policy decisions. The Biden administration must exert its diplomatic weight to prevent unilateral actions and create conditions for meaningful negotiations. With the region on edge, the new administration faces the daunting task of rebuilding trust and fostering dialogue between the parties. Only through sustained diplomatic efforts can there be hope for a peaceful resolution to this long-standing conflict. The potential for Israeli annexation of Palestinian land, encouraged by Trump's policies, represents a dangerous escalation. Annexation would violate international law and deal a fatal blow to the two-state solution. Palestinians view annexation as a threat to their existence, further restricting their freedom and access to resources. The international community, with few exceptions, has condemned the prospect of annexation. The Biden administration faces the task of repairing the damage and restoring America's credibility as a mediator. This will require a shift in policy, prioritizing diplomacy, and a commitment to achieving a just and lasting peace. Trump's foreign policy, often described as erratic and transactional, is driven by a desire for short-term wins. His approach to Iran is characterized by a disregard for traditional diplomatic norms and a preference for unilateral action. This unpredictability raises concerns about his ability to manage complex crises. Trump's decision-making process appears impulsive, driven by personal relationships rather than careful deliberation. The Biden administration faces the task of restoring predictability and stability to U.S. foreign policy. This will require rebuilding trust with allies and prioritizing diplomacy over unilateral action. Trump's foreign policy decisions are often shaped by advisors with their own agendas. Hardliners like Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, and Elliott Abrams have pushed for a confrontational approach towards Iran. These individuals have played a key role in shaping Trump's maximum pressure campaign. The influence of these advisors was evident in Trump's decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. The Biden administration has pledged to chart a different course, prioritizing diplomacy and engagement. The administration will need to push back against those who favor confrontation and build a coalition to revive the Iran nuclear deal. Trump's maximum pressure strategy towards Iran represents a high-stakes gamble with potentially catastrophic consequences. This approach, marked by severe economic sanctions, was intended to coerce Iran into renegotiating the nuclear deal on terms more favorable to the United States. However, the reality has been far more complex and troubling. The policy, characterized by crippling economic sanctions, aims to force Iran back to the negotiating table. These sanctions have targeted key sectors of the Iranian economy, including oil exports, banking, and trade, leading to a significant downturn in economic activity. Critics argue that this approach has backfired, pushing Iran closer to the brink and increasing the risk of conflict. Instead of bringing Iran to its knees, the sanctions have fueled anti-American sentiment and strengthened hardline factions within the Iranian government. The sanctions have had a devastating impact on the Iranian economy, causing widespread hardship. Ordinary Iranians have borne the brunt of these measures, facing shortages of essential goods, skyrocketing inflation, and a deteriorating quality of life. The Biden administration has inherited a deeply flawed Iran policy, one that has left the United States more isolated and Iran more defiant. Rebuilding trust and re-establishing diplomatic channels will be a challenging task, requiring a nuanced and strategic approach. Reversing the damage will require a shift in approach, prioritizing diplomacy and engagement with Iran. This means not only addressing the nuclear issue, but also considering broader regional security concerns and the humanitarian impact of sanctions. The path forward is fraught with challenges, but a renewed commitment to dialogue and cooperation could pave the way for a more stable and peaceful future. Trump's confrontational approach towards Iran has had destabilizing effects on the broader Middle East. His decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal has undermined the international consensus on non-proliferation. The maximum pressure campaign has fueled instability in the Persian Gulf, raising the specter of conflict. The Trump administration's close relationship with Saudi Arabia has further inflamed tensions in the region. The Biden administration faces the task of repairing U.S. relations with European allies and restoring America's credibility. This will require a renewed commitment to diplomacy and a balanced approach to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. The U.S.-Iran relationship stands at a critical juncture. Trump's maximum pressure strategy has failed to produce meaningful changes in Iranian behavior, pushing Iran closer to the brink. The Biden administration has inherited a deeply flawed Iran policy, one that has left the United States more isolated and the region on the brink of conflict. Reversing the damage will require a shift in approach, prioritizing diplomacy and engagement with Iran. The stakes are high, and failure to de-escalate tensions could have catastrophic consequences. The Biden administration must act swiftly to prevent the crisis from spiraling out of control.
So hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and let's turn the page on a new adventure together. Get ready to experience books like never before, only on VBook 360. Like, comment, and share to support the channel and keep the video magic alive. Thank you for stopping by. And remember, every video has a story, and every story deserves to be shared. See you in the next video.